Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Cannon Chatter TV. We are here once again for our weekly edition of the Rumour Mill, where we'll basically be chatting all things Arsenal when it comes to transfer news, latest updates and gossip. So yeah, we're here again for the Rumour Mill episode 2. Stephen, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good, although I've lost my coaster, so I'm kind of hunting around for that at the same time here. But yeah, I'm good. I had a day off work today. It was supposed to be the kids' sports day in school.
Yeah.
But it rained overnight, so it was cancelled. Which was a bit annoying because I had to sort of rearrange my rota and everything to get a day off. So I don't think I'm going to get to go to the next one. But you know, other than that, everything's good. Everything's good. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I had last week off, so I was back to work, obviously, on Monday after the long weekend. And the weather seemed to take like a bit of a turn for the worse as well on Monday. So Monday was a real struggle, I have to be honest. It was a real struggle having a week off. And then obviously the weather taking a turn for the worse, and then coming back to like 200-300 emails as I always do when I'm off. So yeah, that was a real struggle getting through that. Did some stuff on Monday evening and Tuesday evening because it was my daughter's birthday. She turned 15 this week, so happy birthday to Ava. She's out at the moment babysitting for her auntie. But yeah, it's my son's birthday as well next week, so he's going to be 17. So yeah, June is always birthday month, and it's always one of the most expensive months of the year for me. Sometimes it feels like a second Christmas without the Christmas tree because
You're getting old.
What's that?
You're getting old. 17-year-olds, 15-year-olds.
Listen, sometimes I have to pinch myself, like, to just think, like, how do I have, like, do I really have a 15 and a 17-year-old? Like, next year, he's going to be turning 18 and she's going to be turning 16. Like, sometimes I sit back and it blows my mind. Like, I honestly don't know where the years have gone, honestly. But yeah, I'm 38 this year as well, man. So, do you know what I mean? I'm only 2 years away from 40, bro. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
so definitely
I'm already there, so I can't really say anything.
Wicked. But yeah, man, all good this end, man. All good this end. I'm glad everything's well your end. But yeah, those of you obviously joining us, like I said, good evening. We'll run the intro video and then we'll just get really straight into it. So yeah, let's go.
Arsenal have gone through an entire league campaign without losing. The first time it's happened.
Yes. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Cannon Chatter TV again for episode 2 of the Rumour Mill, where we're going to be talking all things Arsenal with regards to transfers, news, gossip, whatever's going on. Those of you who joined us last week, just to kind of give you not so much of a structure of the show, but we kind of got 3 elements of the show. So the first one is going to be something that I've kind of renamed. Last week I called it the Rumour Roundup. This week I'm going to call it the Timeline Rumour Roundup, because basically we get all our information from the timeline, which is, Twitter timeline, all the stuff that comes up, the in the knows, the not in the knows, the journalists, some fans that think they know some stuff. They always put up, players that we either linked to or interested in or about to purchase. So we kind of just accumulate them over the course of the 7 days since our last show, put them all together, and then we'll do a bit of a timeline roundup, myself and Stephen. The second part of the show, we are going to feature 5 players this evening. We won't let you know who they are. We'll just surprise you. But if you've seen the tweet earlier, you'll know who the 5 players are that we've kind of been linked with either, since the end of the season or most recently over the last 7 days. And the last section of the show is something that Stephen brilliantly came up with, which is ridiculous rumour of the week. And honestly, stay tuned for that, because this one will have you in absolute stitches. But yeah, we'll go to the chat real quick before obviously we start with the timeline roundup, rumour roundup. So first of all, we've got our very own Lee Meadows in the chat. Hi guys, checking in after a difficult couple of days. Have a good show. Thank you so much, Lee. Obviously, I'm not going to go into details, but I know the last couple of days have been quite difficult for you and your family. So yeah, sending you best wishes and so forth from us and the whole kind of Cannon Chatter team. Well, thank you for tuning in, bro. Appreciate it. We've got Joseph here. Hope you are all, hope you're all okay, Lee. I think he's basically trying to say there. Jim here saying, wow, check Stephen out, looking fly with a fresh trim. That's what I said to him, you know. That's what I said to him literally before we went on air. I was like, as soon as he turned on his camera, I was like, hey, watch you. looking all fly, you know. Yeah, man, I love the trim. Love it. We've got Joseph again. Big up Stephen and G. I will be there. I'll be there. Will there, sorry, I'm reading that wrong. So I probably need my glasses as I'm turning 38. Will there be any Saliba and Jesus talk? Look, it will feature. It will definitely feature in a timeline roundup. And if we've got some time, maybe at the end of the show or maybe after the timeline roundup, we'll probably go into a little bit more depth about those two players because, as you're saying, Joe, you know, they are massively grabbing the headlines or have grabbed the headlines over the last 7 days. We've got Lee here saying, shout out to my aunt who got run over by a car. Still in hospital, but all things considered, she's doing okay. I didn't really want to share it, but obviously, as you shared it, Lee, then, you know, that's absolutely fine. But yeah, you know, best wishes, you know, from the whole Canon Chatter team, and I'm sure everybody in the chat. So wishing your aunt a very speedy recovery. And we've got Jim here saying, unsure if shout outs are the appropriate expression, but I'm very sorry to hear about your aunt, Lee. Hope she pulls through, mate. Definitely. And we can all echo that. So yeah, sending you best wishes from all of us, Lee. Right, so for the first feature, obviously, of this new season of the Rumour Mill, we're going to do the timeline roundup. Now, last week I did it. This week we're going to try something a little bit different. So, Stephen, are you ready?
Yeah.
Chat room, are you ready? This is the timeline rumor roundup over the last 7 days, and I can tell you it's been a busy 7 days. You know, it always is when it comes to Arsenal. So let's kick off. So I'll start. First headline is Arsenal and Lacazette himself have announced his departure, likely to join Lyon on a free transfer at the end of the month, with reports circulating today that the medical took place in France.
Up next, Arsenal refused to cancel Bellerin's contract. Barcelona, Roma, Juventus, and Inter all allegedly joined the race for the player.
Next up, Juventus midfielder Melo, who was a target in January, still apparently a target for Arsenal in this window.
Rumours Arsenal may bring in Barcelona goalkeeper Neto this window as a third choice option.
And no surprise here, Fiorentina, as well as Lazio and now Valencia, are competing for the signature of Torreira.
Osimhen links are now over as Arsenal prioritised the signing of Jesus from City, although rumours that the player is now being tracked by Madrid, Chelsea and Spurs.
Arsenal are rumoured to be interested in a bit of a surprise here, West Ham player Jared Bowen, who recently made his England debut.
Udinese still in the hunt for Pablo Mari, with Arsenal still keen on signing right back Molina.
Arsenal target Gakpo has been offered around Europe and is apparently available for as little as 25 million.
Gnabry refuses latest buy-in contract offer. Could he be moving back to Arsenal this window?
Nuno Tavares and Omar Rekik may be loaned out next season for further career development.
This one's for you, Joe. Saliba rules out any rumours he's destined for a move away from Arsenal this window, confirming he will be returning to Arsenal after a successful season loan at Marseille, although Napoli have expressed interest in the player.
Next up, Arsenal clearly in the market for a striker, have now been linked with Cagliari's Argentinian striker Giovanni Simeone.
City and Liverpool reportedly upping their interest in our star boy Saka, whilst Arsenal confident of contract renewal this month.
Next up, Arsenal still confident of landing Belgian midfielder target Tielemans this window and have reportedly bid 25 million for the player, although Leicester wanting closer to 35 million.
And finally, Arsenal on the verge of signing Bissouma from Brighton, according to Italian media.
And there we are. There is a timeline rumor roundup. Any of those, before we kick off, obviously, and move on to the show, any of those that you'd like to kind of, touch up on, Stephen, or surprised by, or wish would happen, or, just, I don't know, just anything at all?
Gakpo for 25 million. I said it last week. I would be all over that. When I seen that rumor come out, I actually wrote on the timeline at the time. You know, if Edu's not on the phone to PSV getting their short code and account number, there's a serious problem. You know, so yeah, that one I'd be all over. Osherman, I can understand it. You know, they're looking too much money.
Yeah.
City and Liverpool reportedly looking at Saka. That I don't think he'll go yet. I think he will sign another deal. I don't think not having Champions League at this point is a big thing, but I think going forward, the next time we get to a contract renewal stage with him, if we're not consistently in the Champions League and we're not competing for major titles, we do risk losing him. So, you know, the next sort of 2 to 3 years are really pivotal. Can we say that word, Clay? Pivotal. There we go. In terms of, you know, in terms of keeping him and players like him, you know, like some Martinelli, to an extent Smith Rowe at the club long term, you know. So we've got to get the transfer window right this season. We've got to get back in the top 4 at the end of next season. Basuma, I've seen rumours 25 million potentially he could be available for, maybe even slightly less. The only sort of concern with that is obviously his ongoing court case, I think, is still not settled. So it's, would they make a move before that's settled, or, you know, will that sort of be an end of the window thing? You just don't know. And lastly, Gnabry refuses latest Bayern contract. I mean, again, I said it last week, and I'll sort of say it again this week. Not for me. I think it's a massive thing with Arsenal supporters, this sentimentality that we have of, you know, wanting our old players back and, you know, wanting the heel end boys to come through and do well and stuff. And some of them just aren't good enough. And it's not that Gnabry's not good enough. I just don't see where he fits into the team. You know, especially with the other players that were rumoured to be linked with. You know, Jesus and Gnabry and Saka don't work for me. Because none of them naturally are really left-sided. And that's the concern, is how do you fit the 3 of those into one team? And I know you talk about you've got to have, you know, selection, you've got to have, you know, changing, you know, interchanging in the team, and you've got to be able to rest players and stuff. But at the same time, you'd want, if you're spending that sort of money on players, you want them to be able to play regularly and regularly together. And I just don't see how the 3 of those could play regularly together.
No, definitely.
There you go.
No problem. I think for me, like, you know, I think all these rumors are interesting, and I think it's important to say that, you know, none of these are based on facts. These are just things that we've read off the timeline, things that, you know, we've either retweeted or liked or seen on the timeline. But yeah, I think for me, kind of more to do with obviously what's happening at the club itself rather than potential transfers. I think I would welcome loan moves for Tavares and Rekic at Arsenal. To be fair, when it comes to Nuno Tavares, I think it's been a difficult season. It's been a bit of a roller coaster. He came into the side. He did very well early on. Even kept, you know, KT out the side for a while. And then obviously, you know, after that, you know, as most young players come into the Premier League for the first time, he did struggle, particularly in some big games where really and truly maybe he not ought to have played. It will be an interesting one, because I think obviously Arteta and Cole will look at him during pre-season and say, well, look, he's had a bit of an indifferent season under his belt. Maybe, you know, second season he can push on. So I'm guessing they will look at him over pre-season, but I wouldn't lose any sleep if, you know, they did loan him out. He's under a long-term contract, maybe a loan to another European club, very similar to what, you know, happened to Saliba. Might be really useful for him. So I'd be happy for him to be in and around the first team, or if he was to go on loan. I kind of trust, you know, Arteta and Cole to make the right call on that one. With regards, obviously, Omar Rekic, I know he's recently made his debut at international level. By all accounts, he's a very gifted, promising young player. But again, if you look at the Arsenal squad in terms of who we've got, of who we're potentially going to be bringing in, I can't see him getting much game time next season at all. You know, so I think a loan for him would be great. Because at the end of the day, it further develops his career. Whether he can come and challenge for a place, We don't know. But regardless, at the end of the day, it's about playing football, because if he doesn't have a future at Arsenal, at least he's playing football. You know, he's raising that asking price, and that's much better than just wasting away in the under 23s or on the reserves or whatever it is at Arsenal. So I would potentially welcome those two rumours of them, you know, moving away from the club for a loan next season. And I think the other thing that really caught my eye out of the timeline was I was just absolutely relieved. I don't know about you, Stephen, but I was just so relieved that Saliba did that interview and the interview went the way it did. Because I got to the point with this whole Saliba situation where I just got fed up with it. I didn't comment on it. I didn't retweet anything. I didn't interact with Arsenal fans. I just got fed up with the name Saliba. And that was nothing against him as a player. Nothing against him. It was just the narratives and the stories and the rumors and the twists by the media that was all coming out. And I could see right through it, because I remember being on a stream like ages ago when he first signed and Arsenal loaned him back to France. And I remember, I think it might even have been the Lottie show that I was on. And there was a lot of talk about, you know, Arteta doesn't know how to manage young players and what's he doing signing him and then, you know, loaning him out. He's not played. He's been treated disrespectfully and all this. And I just thought to myself, this is nonsense. Like, this geezer's come to the club. He's young. You know, he's gone through a bereavement. For me, it made perfect logical sense to send him to France, where he has familiarity, family, friends, you know, consistency in terms of culture, settled, where he grew up, etc. It made perfect sense to me. And I didn't even expect the loan to go as well as it did. I didn't think he would actually play as many games. And I didn't think it would go as well as it did in terms of, like, you know, his appearances, his stats, his performances, call up to the French team. So for me, it was an absolute masterstroke in terms of what Arteta did, in terms of what that player needed at the time. Had he played, I saw somebody tweet the other day and I thought it hit the nail on the head. Had he stayed at Arsenal, I think they said that Holding made 15 appearances or something like that at Arsenal this season. So you're talking, had Saliba stayed at Arsenal this season, how many games would he have actually got? It would have been an absolute waste of a season, because there's no way he would have been ready to be in that squad ahead of Ben White and Gabriel. You know, he would have been behind Holding in the pecking order had he stayed. So I think it was a fabulous masterstroke by Arteta. I've been critical of him, and I will be critical of him where I feel like there is reason to. With the Saliba situation, I think he managed the situation perfectly well. And what more do you want from a loan spell? I think Saliba's loan at Marseille is exactly what you want from a loan spell. It's been an outstanding success. And he's a contracted player for Arsenal. So he was always going to come back unless Arsenal took the decision to sell him. And for me, that interview just nipped it all in the bud. You know, I'm an Arsenal player. I had a great season in Marseille. I'm come back now to Arsenal, and I'm going to be competing for a first team place, which is what Arteta has been saying all season. It's literally what he's been saying. So for me, that was a real standout thing, because I was kind of dreading the interview at one point, because I heard that it was going to take place. And I thought, you know what? If he's not really clear, precise, and really kind of clarifies the situation, the media will do absolutely everything to twist that. So I just thought it was really good that he just came out, you know, black and white. This is the situation, and this is what's happening next season. So hats off to Arteta for sticking to his guns. And like I say, hats off to Saliba having a good season and just setting the record straight in terms of coming back to Arsenal for next season.
The thing is that even up until the 1st of September, when the window closes, there'll still be people out there trying to make an issue of it.
Well, it will. It will. Just like the Napoli.
Yeah, I have to agree with what you say. I mean, for me, you send a player on loan for one of two reasons.
Yeah.
One is to get better, get more experience, and come back a better player to help improve your side in the future.
Yep.
Or the second is that they have a decent enough season that somebody wants to buy them. So, you know,
either way, Arteta, the decision Arteta made would have been a win-win.
Yeah,
because he's either going to come back to Arsenal and improve our first team squad depth, or we're going to sell him for more than we bought him. So I know it wouldn't have pleased fans if we did decide to sell him, but either way, you know, you've either got a player, like you said, who's going to come back and improve the squad depth, or you've got a player that's worth a lot more than 27 million that we bought him. Because the season he had in France, really and truly, he's got to be you know, the most valuable centre back in French football at the moment, in terms of who was playing in the French league that season. So, you know, yeah, I think people will always have their narratives and try to have reasons or rationale to criticize Arteta. And I think, you know, where it's due, it's due. But I personally, from the get-go, I thought the decision to send him back to France on loan was a good one. I think it made absolute sense. And I'm just glad that, you know, that's kind of been proven. But yeah.
Do you think he'll play much next season?
I'm really not sure. I think he will. I don't think he'll be first team choice. Personally, I don't think he will. I think obviously Arteta's going to have pre-season to look at him. I think when the season starts, we're going to be starting with Ben White and Gabriel going into next season. I think he'll get his chance in the Europa League games, because I know we've got a heavy fixture pile. I think usually it takes 12 weeks to finish the group stages in Europa League, but due to the World Cup in Qatar, we're going to have to, or due to the pile up of fixtures, it's happening over the course of 2 months rather than 3 months. So the games are going to be coming thick and fast. So I do think he'll have his opportunities in both the Europa League and the league, because, you know, there's no guarantee, you know, when it comes to the fitness of both Gabriel and Ben White. You know, there have been times, you know, last season, feels weird saying last season, but there's been times last season where both have been out of the side. So I definitely feel like he's going to get the opportunity. How much he'll play, I literally have no idea. I think he'll get the opportunity, and I think based on his performances and obviously the fitness and availability of the other centre-backs will determine really how many games he actually gets. What about yourself? What do you think?
Yeah, I think we'll probably start the season with White and Gabriel. Yeah, you say, and he'll get his opportunity in the cups. I think the big thing for him is he's just got to make the most of every opportunity he gets. You know, we've seen that with Arteta, that, you know, if a player comes in and does well, he gives them their chance. You know, you talk about Tavares. Tavares came in for KT when he got injured.
Yeah.
And even when KT came back, Tavares kept him out of the team for a bit.
Yeah.
You know, he could have brought KT back in, but he didn't. You know, he gave Tavares his chance. Mm-hmm. So if Saliba gets his chance and he gets in, he better take it. And I mean, I'll be honest, and I know that there's going to be a lot of people who won't like what I'm about to say, but I rate him higher than Ben White.
We've had these conversations.
Yeah, if it was me, you know, my centre back pairing would be Saliba and Gabriel. Now, I also agree with you that he needed that loan. I'm not one of these Arsenal 100%. Fans that, you know, has been up in arms about the fact that he's not been at the club. I said all along, 100% he needed that loan. But I've watched him mature this season.
Yeah.
And his performances, yes, he's still a bit raw. There's still things there. He still makes mistakes, but he's a much better player now than he was 12 months ago.
100%.
And I think his ceiling is a lot higher than Ben White's. And it's not that I don't like Ben White. You know, Ben White has had some fantastic games for us, but I'm still not convinced Ben White's the £50 million player.
Yeah,
but
these price tags always come with a bit of a curse. They really.
We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah, definitely. I think we all are. I think we're all just eager to see him, and I think that's why that's the only kind of little bit anxiousness that I get, is because I think some Arsenal fans are almost kind of like, you know, hailing him as the next, you know, Maldini already. Whereas for me, I'm just excited to see him in an Arsenal shirt, and I just really want him to do well. And I'm not kind of coming from the angle where, you know, he's the best thing since sliced bread. I was just very excited. I didn't really know much about him when we signed him, and when we signed him, I thought, oh yeah, like, really good, you know, young, you know, exciting prospect. I love seeing young players like get the opportunity and see what they can actually do. So the chance to actually see him physically, you know, in the shirt this season, I think a lot of fans are looking forward to it. But I'm not putting too much pressure on it. I'm just going to kind of see how it goes. And I think the
problem with him was it was a bit like Pepe. His price tag made him better than he actually was.
Yeah. These price tags are curses, man. I tell you.
Yeah.
They are.
So, you know, when all of a sudden we're spending 30 million on an 18-year-old, everybody's expecting, oh, well, this is the guy. You know, sometimes you have to spend 30 million to buy the future.
Exactly. Because in 5 years' time, he's going to be worth 90 million.
Yeah, you're buying a raw talent that needs molded.
Yeah.
But that's the money that you had to pay to get him.
Yeah. It's a risk. Yeah. There's a lot of risk involved.
Yeah.
Cool. Wicked. Right. So we'll go to the chat and then we'll get started on our first player that we're going to be featuring tonight's show. AFC here. City and Liverpool can start running. Our star boy is staying put. Joseph, come on, Tillemans and Partey partnership. Xhaka gone. Yes. Lee saying, come on, Serge, sign the ting. Gary, good evening, Gary. Good evening, G, Stephen, and chat room. I could have done without the Saliba interview. I don't need the anxiety of what if. I just wanted to see him on the field pre-season in a red shirt. No problem. Riddy, good evening, Riddy. He said evening to us both. Gary saying Arsenal and media usually means drama. I hate that drama. Where have I gone? And we've got Gary saying hello to Riddy. Riddy saying hello to Gary. Lee saying, can't wait to see Saliba back in the first team squad next season. I feel Saliba from Gary will play. Does he have experience like Holding? No, but his pros outweigh the cons. Riddy Sakar saying, exactly a month before the Arsenal are back in action. Wow. That's actually mad. Pre-season, I mean, obviously pre-season, but yeah, that's scary, man. That is scary. This summer's going to fly. They better get the checkbook out quick. AFC saying Saliba loan was a masterclass. It couldn't have gone better for him, really. 100%. Like, if there's any Arsenal fans that still don't see that as a masterstroke, which is what I said earlier in the show, I can't help you, man. Gary saying Saliba, Gabriel pairing must be daunting to any set of attackers, and hopefully will be in the near future. AFC saying White was here and now. He was here and now in my opinion. Saliba was a long-term buy. Still needs a lot of work, but he is better than White. So he agrees with you, Stephen. I agree with Gary. Stephen has that banker-like cut. How would you like your withdrawal split? Keith here. Good evening, Keith. Evening, boys, and everyone in the chat. Evening to you, and obviously AFC saying, "Hey, Keith." So the first player, as you know how these shows go. Gary saying, "Evening to Keith." As you know, second part of the show is we will always feature. I usually say a minimum of 5 players, but to be honest, it will probably always be a maximum of 5 players. Just because if we do go more than that, then we'll probably be on the air for like 3 hours, even though we have done that before. But the first player we're going to be linked with, well, the first player that we're featuring in tonight's show is this gentleman here. Now, everywhere in the news in terms of transfers at the moment. His name is Gianluca Scamaca. I'm sure that's how you pronounce it. He's a 23-year-old Italian striker who plays for, now this I'm going to absolutely butcher, Sassuolo. I think that is how you say it. Probably said it wrong. But yeah, he's a striker that we have been linked with. There's been so many different reports in terms of our interest, the fact that we've potentially even bidded somewhere in the region of 30 to 35 million. However, his club wants more like a 50 million price tag on his head. He is under contract until 2026. So, you know, that kind of tells you everything you need to know in terms of who holds the power. Definitely the club in this situation. Also linked with, inevitably, move to Juventus, potentially Inter, but Inter seem like they're pretty much going to wrap up things with Dybala, and they still have Martinez on their books as well, so that looks unlikely. But yeah, he's a player that has recently been heavily linked to Arsenal, and by all accounts from some real kind of, reputable, accounts, journalists saying that we are definitely interested in signing him as a player. So, Stephen, give me your thoughts on Gianluca Scamaca.
Do you know what? I can't make up my mind on him. I really can't, because on the face of it, you look at him and you go, yeah, he's tall, he can head the ball, he can hold up play, he's got a cracking shot on him. He's not afraid to shoot from distance, and he scores quite a few from distance.
Yeah.
He seems to have that ability to be in the right place at the right time. But then you also go, well, he only got 16 goals in Serie A this season in 36 games. And in actual fact, this is only his second season in Serie A.
Mm-hmm.
He's 23. Up until that, he's been playing in lower leagues. He's had a lot of loan spells.
Yeah. I lost count how many actually loan spells he's had.
Yeah. This is actually, although he's been with Sassuolo or whatever they're called for a number of years, this is actually the first sort of full season he's played for them.
Yeah.
And with the sort of money they're talking, sort of 40 to 50 million for him, I just kind of go, is it a risk? Is he going to come over? Is he going to hit the ground running? He's certainly the sort of player we need.
Yeah.
He's that sort of target man. He's, for want of a better description, he's Giroud, but better.
Yeah. I know.
And he has, I think there's massive potential there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's how long does it take him to recognize that potential?
Yeah.
And how quickly does he adapt to the Premier League? And generally, Italians don't tend to settle that well in England. It takes a while. And not many of them generally stay. I mean, I'm trying to think of how many Italians there actually is playing in England at the minute. There's not many. There's Jorginho at Chelsea.
Yeah.
But generally, if you look at the Italian national team, a 23-man squad for a World Cup or whatever, generally, 21, 22 of those players are playing in Italy.
Yeah.
And from all accounts, this guy doesn't even want to leave. He signed a new deal back in April time. And apparently it has the caveat written into it that he can leave to an Italian club with a loan and option to buy.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be the way Italian clubs do things. And I think he kind of knows that, if there's not that option in there, it could price him out of a move to the likes of Juventus or Inter. And I think he seems quite keen on going to Inter Milan, although they're potentially getting Dybala and obviously Lukaku as well. So, that rules them out. But then I heard today Juventus are interested in him to play alongside Vlahovic. Yeah. So you just don't know. I mean, I think it's a big risk. It's a lot of money. A big risk for you can't even say he's a young player. He is young. He's 23. But in the grand scale, it's not like you're bringing in a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
By now he should be not at his peak, but you should be seeing his potential and really recognizing his potential. And you kind of go, it looks like he has potential, but does he? Because he's had one decent season. And it's not even an outstanding season. It's a decent season.
Yeah.
So, and I just don't know, to be honest with you. If we sign him, great. If we don't sign him, I don't know that I'll be particularly bothered.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. I do really hear what you're saying. He's a player that, for me, not massively familiar with up until this season. Obviously looking at him, more closely this season and since we've been linked, I've got to be honest, I do like what I see. You mentioned, his stature. He's 6'3". He's decently built, and he's predominantly a target man. He does drop deep, in terms of kind of hold up play, but kind of pinging a long ball, picking up, looking up, pinging a long ball. And he does a lot of the kind of link up play in terms of building the play when his team is moving forward. Like you said, he's got a great strike, and his return, 16 goals. It's not the most impressive. But what I will say is that, he is playing for a team that, is bottom half of the table. I think they finished 11th in Serie A, or it was somewhere between 11th or 10th. And I think of the 60-odd goals they scored, he scored 16, 17 of them. So, in terms of percentages, I don't think it's as bad a return as it looks like on paper, considering the team he's played for this season. And I watched, big up Jake, Arsenal Analyze, because I watched his scouting video of him earlier today. And he has one less goal than Tammy Abraham, but he's played 1,000 less minutes across the course of the season. And when you actually think, people are absolutely, raving about the season that Tammy Abraham's had. And he's in a superior squad. in a team that's competing for European places in Serie A. So I can kind of take into context his return of 16 goals in 30 odd games. I think he's definitely a better player than the 16 goals that he scored in Serie A suggests. Whether he's the transfer Arsenal need to make is where I'm at as well with you. It's one of those ones where he's, like you said, he's definitely the type of player we need. Whether it's actually him, he is the player we need. I'm a bit questionable. And it's basically based on the same things you said. His career so far has been very stop-start. He's been on endless. I looked him up on Transfer Market, and I just stopped scrolling in terms of the clubs or looking at the clubs that he's actually been on loan at. It's crazy. This has been his first kind of settled and consistent season with his club. So it is a huge money. It's a huge amount of money to ask. I think the offer that Arsenal reportedly put in for like 30 million, I think that's a fair offer for the player in terms of what he's done in his career so far. But as we know in this market, particularly with the Italian clubs, they drive a hard bargain. He's got 4 years or so left on his contract, so they're basically can charge whatever they want. And also, like you said, it's come out as reported that he doesn't even particularly fancy a move out of Serie A. So for me, this is one that he does excite me as a player that we could potentially get, because I feel like even if we do, and that's a big if, even if we do get Jesus over the line, I'm definitely in the camp of I still think we need a target man to come in as well as the Jesus type signing. But when you look at the target man and the striker market, there's not a huge amount to choose from. You got Osherman and you got, Tammy Abraham, but we're talking 80 million to 100 million for players, in my opinion, are nowhere near worth that. And then you've got the likes of Núñez, who had a fantastic season, but looks like he's off to Liverpool because they're putting together a package of 80 to 100 million. So it looks like that's gone, and I'm quite sad about that, to be honest, if I'm completely honest. But yeah, so I think Arsenal are going to have to be smart in terms of the player we do buy as a centre forward, which is why I think we are linked with him, because I think it's not going to be, astronomical money, but yet he could really be almost like a diamond in the rough, one of those kind of gems that you could find. But obviously the Italian clubs, are going to drive a tough bargain. But I think the fact that Juve, sorry, that's my doorbell going off. I think the fact that Juve are interested, I've kind of, as soon as I saw that, I thought, you know what, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not even going to get excited. I'm not going to expect anything. I just think if Juve are interested and this guy wants to stay in Italy, then that's just a done deal. It's going to happen at some stage in the window. And they're going to obviously have him and Vlahovic. So rather us waste our time on Vlahovic strike two, and then leave it till late in the window to actually buy a centre forward or not buy one at all, I think maybe this is one we just leave alone. So in terms of me, for me, it's a maybe. Very similar to you. I think if we sign him, great. I'd love to see how he does. If we don't sign him, I'm not going to lose any sleep. So yeah, I'm pretty much agreement with you. Anything more to say on Scamaca before we move on?
Yeah, the one thing to sort of just to counter on something you said, which was 16 goals, and he's playing for a team that's finished in sort of 11th, and so it's actually a fairly decent return. The one sort of counter I would say that is that you've got to remember, if you look at the likes of the Italian league, you look at La Liga in Spain, outside of the top 3-4 teams, the rest of the league is weak.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So we're saying that 16 goals, but it's actually a pretty weak league.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Whereas the Premier League, with the exception of this season, with the exception of maybe Norwich, Watford, the rest of the teams,
anyone could beat anyone.
Yeah, anyone can beat, and it's that's so evident because I'll tell you, I used to be quite a big, I wouldn't say I was a heavy gambler, but I used to like on a Saturday putting on an accumulator. Yeah. And I'd usually do quite well on them, win quite a few and then a lot of weeks you'd missed maybe one or two. See now, I don't even bother.
Yeah.
You cannot do an accumulator in the Premier League anymore.
Yeah.
There's nothing is obvious. With the exception of like Liverpool's and
and Man City's,
and Man City. The rest
and
of the
even there, Man City can get turned over by Palace.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it's crazy.
Chelsea getting turned over by Brentford.
5-1 at home.
Yeah. I mean, you just don't know. So, those leagues, the Spanish league, the Italian league, much more predictable. So 16 goals in a league like that is the great return for someone that you're going to spend 50 million on. Yeah. How does that translate into the Premier League? But you're right. I mean, the striker market is a problem. We need a quality striker. It is. And Haaland, who we were never getting, has gone to City.
Nunes.
Looks like, as you said, Nunes going to Liverpool, a deal rumored to be worth about 100 million.
Yep.
That they're already streets ahead of us in terms of the quality of their squad. Even and they're adding that. We need to spend big money and sign a quality centre forward. Yeah, someone who can consistently put the ball in the back of the net. Who that is the big question.
Yep. And hopefully at some point this window we'll find out. We'll go back to the chat before we move on to our next player. So we've got Keith here saying all right to AFC and Gary. AFC saying 50 million is a Scamaca. I like that. Ravi Bakari, yo, big up to yourself. Question here from Ravi: how strong do you think Arsenal's squad will be to cope with Prem and Europa? We can either touch upon that now or we can come back to the end of the show. What do you reckon? I reckon we'll come back to that one at the end of the show. But thank you for the question. It is an interesting one. Gary here saying Scamaca is a project and Arsenal needs seasoned player as their number one players in any new positions that fill this window. Jesus starts, does Scamaca. Fair point. Keith, 100% agreeing with Gary. If he doesn't want to move, do we really want another Vlahovic debacle? No, thanks. That's what I said. I think from when I saw, I was interested. I was a bit excited, but when I saw Juve potentially interested, I just thought, just give it up, move on. Scamaca already has eyes for other teams. Vlahovic too, just not a 20+ goal a season starter. He's the second striker for Arsenal, right? AFC, looking at Scamaca's stats for last season versus Jesus playing striker 2021 shows he is Jesus, but better, but it's yet to be seen. Keith saying we've already got project strikers in Flo and Gabby. AFC, regardless of stats, I'd still take Jesus since Scamaca plays Serie A and hasn't had the physicality of our league has. Keith saying Jesus is number one choice for me. 100 million euros package for Nunes. Yeah, it's crazy. Liverpool, you know what? People talk about Liverpool not spending money, but when they're ready to spend money, boy, they do slap it on the table for the right player. Daddy Faz here saying, been a while. Hi guys, been a while. Hope you're all keeping well. I'm just going to mix it up a bit. Why don't Arsenal consider Lewandowski? I just think he's, from what I've seen, he's got his heart set on playing for Barcelona to the point where I don't think he's even interested in talking to any other teams. Second point for me is his age is wrong. As good as he is, don't get me wrong, he walks into this Arsenal team. His age is an issue for me because I think he's a short-term solution to our striking situation. And thirdly, I just think his wages will be astronomical, and I don't think he's kind of within our current kind of wage structure or budget in terms of what we're, not that we can't afford him, but what we're trying to do in terms of moving forward after getting so many big earners off the wage bill. Thoughts on that one, Stephen? Lewandowski to Arsenal.
I agree with you. I think he's got his heart set in Barcelona. I don't think he wants any in the Premier League.
No.
I think he's 33 now. I think if he had been coming to the Premier League, he needed to come 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't think it's for him now. I think it's too physical.
Yeah, it'd be a tough league to transition to at 33.
Yeah.
Regardless of the fact that I'm not disputing what a quality player is, because he is. He's an absolute phenomenal striker. But yeah, I think right now, Yeah, I just can't see that move happening. But no, thank you so much, Daddy Faz, for the talking point. AFC, Lewandowski going to Barca. They don't want. They do what they have to, regardless of wage. Really Sakar saying, who needs Scamaca when you've got Eddie, the Carabao Messi? I like that. Really Sakar saying, I can see us going for DCL if we don't get Jesus. Yeah, I think there's a couple of names that we will potentially go for if it comes to it. I think DCL is one of them. I think Richarlison is another. I think we might even go down the route of Ivan Toney if needs be. I think Jesus is definitely the kind of striker target that we want to get over the line as quickly as possible. But I still think we're in the market for two. But I still think Arsenal are going to surprise us.
The new one tonight. The new one tonight, which is a rehashed one from last summer, Ollie Watkins.
Yeah, Ollie Watkins. Yeah, I've heard that. He's a player that we are in discussions with, like in terms of like his representatives. And also somebody actually said to me, have you noticed how all the talk about Isak has gone absolutely quiet? I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal did that, something like that, just pulled Isak out of the hat and just see him holding up the shirt. Because we were so heavily linked with him in January, and that has literally gone like radio silent. It's just crazy how quiet that has gone. But yeah, I do think the Jesus thing is clear and obvious that we're in for him. There's too much smoke without fire. But I think the potential second option, or if we don't secure the signature of Jesus, I think we're going to be surprised. I don't think it's going to be the player that we all kind of want or hoping for. Next one we've got, check Twitter DMs from me, please. It's about Gabriel Jesus transfer. Okay.
I've got it here. I've got what he's talking about. So I'll read this out.
No problem. And he says, hello, everyone. Hello to you. Yes.
So he's sent me a tweet that Con Marble Halls was put out tonight.
Okay.
I don't know if any of you follow. He's another supposed in the know. He has put out a tweet tonight. Gabriel Jesus has accepted Arsenal's contract offer of around 180,000 a week. Arsenal have offered him the number 9 shirt also. Mikel spoke to the player this week whilst away with Brazil. Player wants to join. Manchester City want guaranteed 40 million with add-ons for performances.
Okay. Well, let's hope that happens and materializes. Thank you for that. And lastly, Daddy Faz here saying, on Lewandowski, I just feel we need someone who is prolific. Ronaldo is 37 and still banged in 18 Premier League goals. Very, very true. Very, very true. Very good point to kind of back up your point in terms of Lewandowski signing for Arsenal. But yeah, that's it in terms of obviously Scamaca links and the chat room comments for now. Next player we've been linked with over the last 7 days that we're going to be featuring in tonight's show. And I think tonight they really wanted to like get at me in terms of like pronunciation of names or clubs that they're playing for. And it's this gentleman here, Arnaud Danjuma, a 25-year-old. Can't actually remember where he's from. Actually, is he Dutch?
I believe he's Dutch. Although he's trying to remember.
Yeah, so Dutch winger who plays for Villarreal.
He was born in Lagos, Nigeria.
Okay. So born in Lagos, Nigeria, represents Holland at international level. 25-year-old winger that plays for Villarreal and previously at Bournemouth. So yeah, we've been linked with this player over the last 7 days. I mean, it's not a transfer or a transfer rumor that has featured heavily, but it's definitely been on the timeline. And it definitely caught my eye because it was a player that we were kind of newly linked with, somebody that there's not really been a lot of noise in terms of previous links. So yeah, I thought it would be good that we could kind of feature him. And to be honest, I just really wanted to take a closer look at him because since he made his £13.5 million move from Bournemouth to Villarreal, I haven't really watched much of him other than the performances he had in Europe against some of the British sides, where I was actually quite impressed. So, Stephen, talk to me. What are your thoughts on Danjuma over a potential signing for Arsenal?
No, thanks.
Short and sweet, yeah?
It's kind of it. He's not a player I'm sort of familiar with. I had to look him up. And, considering he played in the Premier League with Bournemouth,
Yeah.
The fact that I've had to go and look him up kind of
Yeah.
tells you everything you need to know, because I like to think of myself as fairly well versed when it comes to players, especially players who play in the Premier League. And I have a bit of affection for Bournemouth, as I used to live down in that sort of area, and I worked in Bournemouth for a while. So I've always kind of had that little bit of affection for them. And he's not really a player I was familiar with. Now, to be fair, I didn't follow them that heavily when they went down to the Championship, and that's where he did well for them. I think he got 15 goals for them in the Championship.
Yeah.
But he made 14 appearances in the Premier League for them and didn't score a single goal.
Yeah.
He's gone to Villarreal. He's got 10 goals in 22 league games and 6 and 8 in the Champions League. So his return certainly better at Villarreal. But again, it's a weaker league.
Yeah.
You know, and 14 games on the whole in the Premier League is not a massive amount of games. And yeah, probably some of them were substitute appearances and stuff. But you would still like to think even 1 or 2 goals.
Yeah.
You know, even Eddie Nketiah managed to get 5. 21 games this season, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, you'd like to think if we're going to be spending, and I mean, the rumours are that, transfer market value in this guy like 45 million.
Yeah. No.
You know, and I haven't seen.
I'd be pretty ticked off if Arsenal spent 45 million on him.
Yeah, I mean, you sent me through the list of players we're going to cover, and as I say, I haven't even seen a rumour linking us with him this week. So, was there a value placed against what would be looking to pay for him or anything that you've seen?
No, literally, it was just something that popped up and said that, you know, he's Villarreal wingers, you know, on Arsenal's kind of, you know, not the wish list, but kind of list of target players, that potential kind of wingers that might come into the club this season. And for me, I was really, really surprised. Like, I looked at him. To be fair, I don't really remember him playing for Bournemouth, if I'm completely honest. And I think what surprises me and what kind of, you know, is a red flag for me is that usually if a player is playing for a Premier League side or Championship side and is highly rated, it's usually one of the bigger teams in the Premier League that will sign them up. And that, you know, if you look at the way it is, you know, the likes of Ollie Watkins, the likes of Buendia, you know, generally, if a player is doing well in either the lower leagues or the actual Premier League itself, another bigger Premier League will kind of just snap them up. So the fact that he kind of moved abroad, you know, for 13.5 million, it's not a massive fee, particularly in this market as well. It's quite a reasonably low fee. Like I said, when I saw him, so that kind of gives me a red flag. When I saw him play for Villarreal, he looks, on his day, he looks a good player. He does. He's really strong. He's got good feet. He's direct. He likes to run at his man. When I did see him play a couple of times against some of the British sides, he looked pretty good. But the British sides that he was playing against defensively, they weren't great at all. But yeah, so he again is like one of those players that I think to myself, he wouldn't be at the top of the list in terms of wide player. When I look at where he plays predominantly from the clips I've watched and the games I've watched him play, he can operate on the right, but predominantly operates on the left-hand side. And I can't see the sense in signing him in the fact that he's going to bring anything more than what Martinelli brings to that left-hand side or ESR brings to that left-hand side. And definitely not at the price of 45 million or anything close to that. So, yeah, for me, he looks an all right player, but he's not, you know, he's not the player that I would want Arsenal to sign this summer if we're going to go for a player that plays either on the wings or up top. Because I know he does have that versatility to his game also, where he can play through the middle. So he wouldn't be my first choice. Definitely not. So for me, even though I was on the fence with Scamaca, for me, I'll have to agree with you on this one. It's a no from me with regards to this. It'd be interesting to see what people think in the chat, though, with regards to this player. And we'll go to the chat before we move on to our third player for tonight. So we've got Keith saying here, great point that he faz. I think that's just about, obviously, Ronaldo coming to the league and doing the business with 18 goals in terms of
the thing with that, just on that, Ronaldo's a freak.
Yeah, freak of nature, innit?
You know, in the nicest possible way.
Yeah, he is.
He is a freak of nature.
Yeah,
he's a one-off. sort of player. He's built physically for it. He looks after himself so well. You may not like him because he plays for United and stuff, but you have to respect him and you have to admire the fact how well he looks after himself.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, Daddy Faz saying cheers. Gary here saying Lewandowski can't fill all the holes at Arsenal. Even with the potential starters we are looking at, we still need depth. Again, Arsenal don't have that much money for sure. Daddy Faz saying the depth will hopefully come this window. I know we have the 2 Americans coming in and Saliba back will be a massive boost. But if we want to be considered as a top team, again, we have to have serious intent on buying the players that will get us there. Stan and Josh need to get their checkbook out 100%, and Edu needs to do his job. Regarding depth of squad, we need to keep players like Ainsley, Maitland-Niles, etc. Not sure I agree with that, Keith. Love you to bits, but not sure I agree with that. Daddy Faz said to prove what they have been saying in the past is not just nonsense. Yep, they've told us to get excited, but I think we're still waiting for that excitement. And Daddy Faz said to Keith, I couldn't agree with you more. Right, you lot got to go and build a bike for a 12-year-old's birthday tomorrow. Oh, happy birthday to your, I don't know, is it daughter or son? Sorry, not too sure. Daughter. So happy birthday to your daughter, Keith. Enjoy. I know what it's like building bikes. I'm not very good when it comes to that kind of stuff. So yeah, that would probably take me all night. End up in bed at like 4 a.m. But yeah, no, happy birthday to your daughter and good luck with everything in terms of building a bike. G and Stephen, great show as always. Folks in the chat, much love. Definitely have a good evening. AFC here, isn't there 6 including the outrageous rumor? Well, yeah, no, we're going to be featuring 5 players that we're going to be looking at closely. And then obviously the ridiculous rumor is kind of just like the last segment of the show. Gary here saying, hey, Ainsley, you are a right back. Yeah, I know. I wish he'd just convince himself of that. And then AFC saying, good night to Keith. Daddy Faz saying, take care to Keith. And Matt saying, hello, bit late to the show. No problem at all. Glad you could join us. And lastly, Jamie here saying, not long home, still here for the last hour. Thank you so much for tuning in. Brilliant.
Just to go back, sorry, very quickly, just to the money point. All right, so I've said this before, and I'm going to sort of cover it again. The Cronkies invest money. Whether people want to believe it or not, or whether people like the Cronkies or not, the facts are the Cronkies are investing money. And I've always said that once they own the club outright, they would start to invest their money. Up until that point, you don't invest money making a business more profitable that you want to have sole ownership of, that you have to buy other people out of. You wait until you have sole ownership. Now, do you know how much money Arsenal currently have, disposable money, in their bank account right now?
No idea.
£19 million.
Wow, okay.
We have debt of like, I think it's 250 million, something like that, to the Cronkies. And £19 million in the bank.
Wow.
So if we spend more than £19 million, where's that money coming from?
Cronkies.
Exactly.
We have £19 million in the bank.
Yeah.
Wow.
So for anybody that doesn't believe the Cronkies invest, you know, we'll see come the end of the summer how much we spend compared to that 19 million we currently have sitting in the bank.
Cool. There you have it. We'll see.
Because let's be honest, we ain't getting much money for the players we're going to be selling because Edu cannot sell players.
Oh, mate, listen, it's absolutely crazy. I was having this debate in one of the group chats. Edu needs to come up trumps this summer. 100% he does. But anyway, I guess that's a whole new stream. But yeah, third player we're going to be focusing on tonight is another bit of a surprise. Many of you might not actually know who he is. Personally, it's a link again, like the last one, Danjuma. Not massive links, but definitely a player that we've been linked with over the past 7 days. If you've seen it on the timeline, great. If you haven't, do obviously stay tuned, see what we've got to say, and then check him out in your own time. But he's a 20-year-old, and his name is Amadou Onana, and he plays for Lille, same club that we bought Pepe from. So yeah, I'll start with this one with regards Amadou Onana. So I think the first thing I will say is that there are some, I don't know if you agree, Stephen, or maybe I'm just being a bit naive, but I feel like there are some phenomenal midfield talents out there at the moment, like young midfield talents. When I think about like the likes of, you know, Camavinga, I've forgotten the other guy's name who's on the verge of £100 million move to Real Madrid. We actually featured Decore, who plays for I think it was Lens in the French league on last week's show. There are some quality young midfielders out there that are definitely worth, you know, a risk on. You know that, you know, and I say risk. I like, obviously Camavinga went for big money. The kid, I've forgotten his name, who's signing for Madrid, he's going for close to 100 mil. So, you know, they're kind of, you know,
too shallow.
Yeah. There are different levels to this, but I mean, there does seem to be like a real kind of core of really good, talented young players and playing in the French league and, you know, around Europe that have some real potential. You know, we've got one of them ourselves, Lokonga, who we signed from, you know, Anderlecht. So when I saw this, I thought to myself, okay, we're not massively in need of another young midfielder. I think when you look at our midfield with the likes of Partey, Xhaka, El Nene and Lokonga, you know, we've already got 4 midfielders there. And I feel as though we just really need to add quality to that midfield. And when I say quality, I mean like, you know, proven players, Premier League proven players, players that are playing at top level across European football. And of a certain age as well. I think we need to add experience to the side. So when I first saw the link, I thought to myself, I don't fancy this at all. I saw the age. I didn't recognize the name of the player. And I thought, nah, I'm just not interested. However, obviously, I thought it'd be interesting for us to cover him. So I looked into him and, you know, again, he looks an absolute menace in the midfield. The first thing that struck me when I was looking at clips and watching him was just his size. He's an absolute beast in terms of his stature. He's tall, he's strong, he's quick, and almost very similar to Decore that we looked at in last week's show, in that, you know, he's tough in the tackle, stays on his feet when he's supposed to, likes a good, you know, slide tackle, but predominantly a CDM, but has the ability to intercept, pick up the ball, glance past 3 or 4 players with just sheer power, pace, and good feet, and then also release the ball, play a decent through ball, whether it be over the top or along the ground. And he looks an absolute fantastic prospect. He really, really does. Played a full season at Lille. I think it was over 30, between 30 and 40 appearances. So yeah, I have to admit I was impressed. Having said that, and having looked at him and think to myself, you know what, this is definitely a player, you know, that would be, you know, I think any Premier League side or any team in Europe would be worth taking a look at him. It's especially for the fact that, you know, he's not rumored to be linked with a move for incredible money. We're talking like 10, 15 million max, I think he would cost. Very similar to what we paid for Lokonga. So I think he's definitely worth a risk. I just don't feel like for us, in terms of where we are, in terms of our process, in terms of our project, I just don't feel like another additional young midfielder is exactly what we need at the time. I think if we were looking at our midfield minus Lokonga, I'd probably say, you know what, if we're going to bring in a Basuma, Tielemans or both, and this guy additionally, I'd say, yeah, go for it. But you brought that point up brilliantly last week when we was looking at Decore, and you said, well, we bring in Decore, you know, what happens to Lokonga? We've already kind of signed our kind of understudy to Partey and so forth. You know, if we bring a player in, you know, a 21-year-old player that's unproven, playing in French football, gonna need a season to transition, isn't going to get first team football because we've got the likes of Partey and so forth. So it doesn't really make sense. Where does Lokonga get games? You know, are we going to send him out on loan? Is it going to, you know, somewhat stifle his development in terms of him being an Arsenal shirt next season? So as much as I like this guy, and I really do, and if you've not seen him play, I would definitely advise you to go and check him out, because I think he looks a phenomenal player. And I think if his career continues to develop, the way he's performing in French football with Lille, I think he's going to be one hell of a midfielder. As much as I've got a lot of good things to say about him, and if we did sign him, I wouldn't be unhappy as long as we made the additional midfielder signings that I think we need. It's a no from me. I just don't feel like he fits the profile of what we need to enhance that midfield moving into next season with the amount of games we're going to be playing. Give me your thoughts on him, Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of summed a lot of it up there. And then obviously going backwards and forwards at Decore and stuff last week on what I had said. And he does look a good player. The one sort of criticism I would have of him is he goes to ground quite a bit.
Yeah, he does. He loves a slide tackle. He loves a slide tackle.
Yeah. And that can be, again, it can be a risky business.
Yeah, in the Premier League, yeah.
Doesn't seem to get sucked out of position as much as Decore and stuff. Yeah, I mean, he looks a decent player. His experience, for me, is sort of what would put me off. I think if we signed him, it would be a case of sign him and send him straight back out on loan.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I don't think there's space in the squad for him and Sambi to both be learning the game. One of them can stay and learn. One of them would have to go off and learn. I think to be honest with you, I mean, I like Sambi. I do. Yeah. Long term, if Arteta's the coach and we're playing that 4-3-3, does Sambi really have a long-term future at the club? Because I know we talked about him as the sort of the natural successor to Partey, but I don't know that I see Sambi as an out-and-out central defensive midfielder. That being said, I don't see Partey as a natural central defensive midfielder. I think he's growing more into the role.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was never that. He was never a central defensive midfielder at Atletico.
Yeah.
You know, he played further forward, and I just don't know where they all fit in. You know, I find it strange that we're being linked to so many central defensive midfielders.
Yeah.
Especially when we have, you know, we have Partey, we have Sambi, who we're sort of classing as his understudy, and then we have El Neni signed on for another year as his backup.
Yeah.
So no, for me, you could sign this guy, send him out for a season loan, and then next season when El Neni goes, you bring him back into the squad.
True. Future
so that's an option, you know, if we're looking at it in terms of that. But I think we need to be focusing on our first team squad.
Yeah. At
the minute, without worrying about next year's signings. We need to get it right this year. Definitely. So it's 10, 15 million that if he's still at Lille come the end of the summer and we've done our business and there's 10, 15 million in the kitty, you know, if the Cronkies say, yeah, you can have another 10, 15 million, yeah, buy him, but buy him with the intention of loaning him straight back to Lille and let him have another season there.
Definitely. No, I agree. And I think, you know, that's something that I think, you know, we kind of inadvertently did with Saliba. And I think it's going to prove to be a really, you know, like I said, a masterstroke from Arteta. But yeah, like I said, with this player, if we signed him, I would be excited. But he's a signing for the future and not necessarily this season, as you said. So, yeah, I completely agree with you. He looks.
I would sign him over Decore that we looked at last week.
Mate, I tell you, he looks a player. Like when, and I know we said similar things about Decore, but I was more impressed with Onana when I watched the clips, and just in the midfield, pure dominance, like literally. Like I think, you know, if that can be groomed and developed, yeah, he'll be an absolute monster in the middle of the park for a team in years to come. So yeah, I agree. Right, we'll go back to the chat before we move on to our fourth player of tonight's show. We've got FC Stephen. Edu can't buy players either. And Daddy Faz saying 19 million. I'm not sure what the 19 million is.
We're referring to how much Arsenal have in their bank account.
Oh yes, there you go. Yeah, To be honest, that surprised me. I was thinking to myself, what we got must have a couple of 100 million like laying around. You know what I mean? But that just shows you I don't know much about finances when it comes to Arsenal Football Club or any football club. But yeah, I was gobsmacked at that. I thought it would be a lot higher than that. So that kind of puts things into perspective for me a little bit. And we've got quite a few of you letting me know what the player's name is. Tuchameni, I think. I don't know if I've absolutely butchered that. I've heard it being. I know who the player is. I've heard him. I've seen him play. For his club. I've seen him play for France. And I hear people say it, but it's just not a name that's really stuck in my head. But yeah, he's on the verge of £100 million deal. And then we've got obviously AFC coming in with the name as well. Gary's saying, gotta go. Have a good rest of your show and good night, G, Stephen, and chat room. Thank you for tuning in, Gary. Have a good evening. And AFC saying night to Gary. We've got Daddy Faz saying, Onana, apologies if I've spelt this name wrong. Laugh out loud, but he sounds like he is similar attributes to Pogba, but can actually tackle. I wouldn't be disappointed if we signed this guy and Basuma. No, he is. He looks a really good at 20 years old. For what I've seen, he looks an absolute player. And I think like I said, if that can be groomed and developed, then whoever grabs him or takes a punt on him. Risk involved, obviously, but they could get a good player on their hands. Hopefully not for 19 million. Otherwise, we're screwed. Love that. Matt saying, would rather see us develop one of our own. Patino, Aziz need game time and being able to develop. Very good point, Matt. Obviously, very highly rated midfielders in the likes of Patino and Aziz. But yeah, no, very, very good point. We don't always have to look across Europe for talent when we've got, Halen boys doing their thing. Russ here saying, evening, lads. Evening, Russ. Matt saying, don't want to see us bring in another young player. As you've already mentioned, they need to be Premier League proven and ready. Agreed. On a positive, his chant writes itself. 100% it does. Daddy Fans saying, whatever happened to squad competition for places, if we signed Onana, then that should spur Lokonga on to become better and Premier League proven. Okay, that's a different perspective of it, and again, it makes sense. The problem is,
fair point, but as I say, it goes back to you've got Sambi and you've got El Neni.
Yeah,
and then if you brought him in, you've got 4 people competing for one place. It's too many,
and that's not without the likes of Tielemans and Basuma that we already want Arsenal to sign. So it's almost like a flooded position. So it's like, where are they going to get there? Where are going to get games? Matt saying the problem is we buy DMs and then either the manager doesn't like them or it doesn't work out or we sell them. And yeah, we've still got players. We've still got Torreira that at the moment is still an Arsenal player. So yeah, there are some players that not only do we need to get moving in terms of obviously bringing in players. I know the window opens on Friday, but also getting rid of these players that potentially are going to all return from their loan spells. We need players that can excel right now. The youngster can be brought through later. Tuchameni is a cheap player, as in I think he's just so good. I wouldn't go near Basuma until his personal issues outside of football are sorted, and I think that is a lot of people's reservations. Stephen said that earlier in tonight's show. AFC saying get rid of 34 and play one CDM. Arsenal analysed. Evening G and Stephen tuning in, very late. Defo going to watch this back. Hope you're both well. We're good. And I gave you a little shout out, Jake, with regards to Arsenal Analyzed, because I said I watched your scouting video of Scamaca. It was really, really good. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And obviously, thank you for tuning in. It's always better to be late than never. And we've got here Daddy Faz. Forgot about Torreira. I love that guy. Yeah, like I said, Torreira's still on our book. So, and by all accounts, like there are teams interested, but that transfer is by no means sorted. So, at the end of the day, if nobody coughs up the money and Arsenal are not happy with the fee that people want to offer, then he'll be an Arsenal player next season. Right, 4th player we're going to cover for tonight's show is this gentleman here, Corentin Tolisso, 27-year-old Bayern Munich midfielder. Now, Stephen, I know you're always on the point when it comes to contracts and stuff like that. Is this guy available on a free transfer?
Yeah,
he is, right? I'm sure, because I'm sure I did read that somewhere when I was looking him up. So he's available on a free transfer, France international. I'll kick off this one because I know you started first with Scamaca and Danjuma. You know what? It's a difficult one. He's a quality player. I know what he can do. Seen him play, multiple times for France, for Bayern Munich. Got real ability in the middle of the park, and particularly, his ability to, pick out players with a long ball. But just his passing range, short passes, long passes. For me, he's a quality midfielder, and I think if we were signing a player that could do this consistently, perform consistently the way he can, minus his atrocious injury record, I'd say it would be an absolute no-brainer. But I think given the fact that we have already Partey, Xhaka, Lokonga, and El Nene, for me, I would be very reluctant, hesitant, and to be honest, I just wouldn't make the call in terms of signing him on a free, because I just feel very hesitant about the idea that we're signing a player on particularly high wages, because I don't think he's earning peanuts at Bayern Munich. And then we could run the risk of having, a high-paid player on our books that's only going to give us 10, 20 games max throughout the season. So he doesn't necessarily, for me, fit the profile of what we need as a midfielder. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet for me, and just come out and say it's a no from me for those very reasons.
Okay. It was interesting because we've been linked to him this week.
Yeah.
But I actually put out a poll the week before.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
When I realised he was coming up free, and because he's a player we've been linked with in the past, and quite heavily linked with in the past. And, he played 160 games in 4 seasons at Lyon.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went to Munich for somewhere in the region of about 37 million. And in the 5 seasons at Munich, he's played 118 games.
Okay.
It's less than 25 games a season.
Yeah,
he's managed, his record for games played at Lyon was fine. 160 games in 4 seasons, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But 118 in 5 seasons at Munich is, it just goes to show he's terrible luck with injuries.
It scares the hell out of me. Honestly, it does.
Yeah. He is a fantastic player. There's no doubt about it. He is one that I did want when we were linked to him a few seasons back. He is a fantastic player when he's fit. It's keeping him fit. And I worry that if we signed him, it would just be to keep a nice space for him in the Abu Dhabi treatment wing, as I call it.
Yeah.
At Colney, he would just be in and out of there week in, week out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a no from me. Although I have to say, if somebody signs him and they can keep him fit,
they got a player.
They're getting a hell of a deal.
Yeah.
Even if you were paying him 200 grand a week, which, to be honest with you, I don't think you'd have to pay him. I think you'd probably get him for about 100 grand a week, because he's struggling to get any side that'll touch him. That's the thing. Is it.
Even the fact that he's leaving Bayern on a free, and to be honest, there's no noise about it.
Yeah,
there's absolutely no noise, because obviously, a player of his ability, if you take away the injuries, it would be seen as an absolute disaster for Bayern Munich to lose a player of that quality. But because, like you said, you look at his injury record at Bayern Munich and the amount of appearances he's made over the last 5 seasons, there's absolutely no noise, and there's absolutely almost zero interest from any of the top European sides. These teams in the Premier League, Serie A, La Liga should be queuing up for a player of his ability, but you can just tell that teams in the market are just completely hesitant to take a punt on him, because you're going to get maybe a 10-15 game a season player out of him, and for what we need, it's a massive risk for me.
I think the problem is that you could bring him in, right, and obviously use him within a squad rotation.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't have to heavily feature him. He doesn't have to play a massive amount of games.
Yeah.
The concern for me is the amount of injuries he's had.
Yeah.
Is that is he 1 or 2 injuries away from the end of his career?
In the career, yeah.
You know, so it's not even so much. It's not the risk of, you know, it's not even the monetary risk involved in him coming in and maybe only playing, you know, 20 games a season. You know, if we brought him in, paid him $100,000. I mean, we're going to pay Eddie $100,000 apparently.
Yeah.
And he'll be lucky to get 20 games a season.
Yeah.
You know, well, I say lucky to get 20 games a season, lucky to get 20, 90 minutes a season.
Yeah.
I think is what I mean more for Eddie. So, you know, if you brought him in and he played 15 to 20 games and that's all you needed him to play, then yeah, it's not bad, but it's the fact that he could come in, play 2 games, get injured, and his career's over. Now, I know you've got that risk with any player because at any point, any player could, you know, do a career-ending injury. But with him, it's a higher risk because of his previous injuries, and that would be my concern with him.
Definitely.
You know, there is argument and merit to bringing him in, and you know, even if you give him a 2-season deal and see how he gets on at the end of the first season, you know, you could do a 2-season deal or a 3-season deal with a break at the end of the first season. You know, you could write something into the contract because of his injury record. So I wouldn't rule it out completely, but I think there's certainly better options.
Yeah, definitely. It's a crazy one because, like I said, he is a top quality player. But yeah, and I think, you know, people in the chat are basically kind of echoing what we've said. Here's Arsenal Analyzed Jake here saying, just thank you, G. Really appreciate it. No problem at all. Like I said, it was a really good watch. And if you haven't seen it, do head over there and watch his scouting reports of Scamaca and some of the other players. They are really good viewing. And Russ here saying, I love Tolisso, but he's injury prone. Matt saying, thought Tolisso had already gone somewhere else. No, he hasn't actually. He's a free agent. He's still available. But like I said, there's been very, very, very quiet and little noise on him, which even though he is so injury prone, I'm still surprised just how little noise there has been because he's a free agent. He can join any club for free. So you'd think there would be huge amount of links in terms of like his future, but it is really quiet at the moment. Other than the Arsenal
27 as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. 27. He's you know, he's not past it. So for me, I am just very, very surprised that it's only Arsenal that I've seen. And even the Arsenal links have not been noisy. You know, there've been the odd link like here and there. And to be honest, every player that's available on a free or not on a free is linked with Arsenal. So there might not even be any truth in it at all. But yeah, for a player of his quality, I'm very surprised just how quiet it is in terms of him leaving Bayern on a free or potentially going to any other club. So we'll just have to wait and see if Arsenal actually make a move or where he actually ends up this summer. Tolisso, haven't we been linked with him in the last 6 seasons? He is, as Stephen said, and you said, Daddy Faz, you know, he is a player that we have been heavily linked with, you know, season after season. So it will be interesting to see where he does sign up with his next long-term contract. AFC here saying, I'll take Tolisso on a free, 115k per week. Very convincing argument there for signing Tolisso. I'm not 100% convinced on Tolisso, especially being injury prone. But if he's a free and we can be used as squad rotation system where he isn't overplayed, then hopefully this will help him and the team. But I personally wouldn't make the call either. So kind of agreeing with what you said, Stephen. I mean, obviously, where we're going to have more games next season. My only concern with that is that if he comes in as squad rotation and he does extremely well, the pressure on Arteta and the fan base will be to play him. Because if a player comes in and does really well, it's almost like, well, he needs to be a first-team player. So anytime there's a key game, it's like, why is Tolisso not playing? So I think it would be a difficult one to manage. Like I said, for me, it's a no. I wouldn't take the risk. I think there are players in the market that we can actually sign that are available, that can come in and don't have the injury record he has. At the same time, I can understand the logic why it would be a risk worth taking as well. I can see it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to be outraged if we sign him on a free, put it that way. 115k per week, AFC is saying again. Russ saying Arsenal can't keep players fit at the best of times. I know. If this guy literally, you know, Partey comes to us with a near perfect injury record and now he can't play. You got two game Tommy, that Stephen likes to call him. And then, you know, we've got this guy who's already got a terrible injury record. Maybe he'll come to Arsenal and be made an absolute steal. Maybe it'll have the reverse effect. Who knows? That was a funny one, Russ. And Russ saying we have a history of rushing players back too quickly and exasperating. There you go. Thank you for that, Stephen. Exasperating injuries and making them longer term. And Joseph saying, how many signings do you think we will make, G and Stephen? Two things we're going to come back to. Okay, well, Stephen thinks we'll make 5. I'm not sure. I think we'll make a minimum of 5 this summer. I'm not sure how many, but a minimum of 5. But I do need to remember there was a question that we need to come back to at the end of the show. I'll need to find it. I don't know if when I'm chatting away for the next player, I'm going to come to you first, though, if we can find it. But there definitely was an interesting question at the beginning of the show that I wanted to come back to. So, yeah, last player, there we go. Ravi is question, how strong do you think Arsenal squad will be to cope with Prem and Europa? And we're going to definitely come back to that question once we've featured our last player of tonight's show and then the ridiculous rumor of the week. But I do want to come back to that question because it is an interesting one. So the last player we're going to be focusing on, and seeing as you went first for the first 2, I went first for the last 2. I'm going to come to you first on this one, Stephen, is Fabrian Ruiz, 26-year-old Spanish international that plays for one of our feeder clubs, which is Napoli. Well, not really feeder clubs, but clubs that we just like stealing their transfer targets off them. But yeah, thoughts on Fabrian Ruiz? The rumors obviously have circulated before the last 7 days, again over the last 7 days, but are not massively strong at the moment. But yeah, I know he's out of contract in summer 2023, which is why there is a lot of speculation about his future. By all accounts, he's basically communicated to Napoli that he won't be signing a new contract. As I said, all speculation, all rumors. Is he a player that, first of all, what are your thoughts on the player? And is he a player that you'd like at Arsenal?
So the first thing, just on Napoli, it's more we use their scouting network.
Yeah, exactly.
And now we're just being linked to their players straight away. You know, obviously the ones that we've missed out on in the past from their scouting network. Fabian Ruiz. So I know there's a lot of people out there really like this guy.
They do.
And he's a decent player. But for me, he's not a great player. He's a decent quality player, but he's not a great player. And I don't really know if we were bringing him in, you know, I imagine it would be that sort of number 8 role, where we're being linked with Tielemans and things like that.
Yeah.
For me, is he better than Tielemans? No, I don't think he is. I don't think his goal scoring record's good enough. You know, he's technically a decent player. He's got a good pass on him. He's
a typical Spanish player, isn't it?
Yeah, but even his assists, you know, his assist record isn't great. He's more that sort of Odegaard.
What did he get last season? What was his stats last season? I think 7 goals, wasn't it?
Yeah, 7 goals, 4 assists.
Yeah, okay, yeah. 11 goal.
And that was sort of his best season that he's had.
Yeah, most prolific, yeah.
Now, as I say, you could liken him more to that sort of Odegaard style. And I've said this about Odegaard before, that Odegaard will never, I don't think Odegaard's ever going to be the player that, you know, people think he is in terms of stats. You know, if you're basing the player solely on stats, on goals and assists, Odegaard's never going to live up to your expectations.
Yeah.
If you look at what Odegaard does in terms of the way he links up play, the way he, you know, brings people into the game, it's that sort of, for want of a better phrase, a pre-assist, which I hate the term. He sets it up for the person to set up the assist.
Yeah.
Ruiz is sort of more that style of player. And I don't think that's what we need from that number 8. We do need that style, but we also need someone who can put the ball in the back of the net. And I think, you know, I think that's why we're being heavily linked to Tielemans, is because Tielemans can put the ball in the back of the net. He has that ability. So for me, Ruiz, much as he's a good player, I prefer Tielemans.
Yeah. No, and you know what? I think you've hit the nail on the head, to be honest. You kind of said everything that I've said. or I would have said. I think Fabian Ruiz is a good player. I think if we sign him, for me, he starts as a number 8. But personally, I feel like of the players we're linked with, the likes of obviously Fabrian Ruiz, Tielemans, and even if you look at Zinchenko, who we covered on last week's Rumour Mill show, I think all 3 of them start in that number 8 position if we sign any of them. But it is a case of who do you prefer at this stage? Because I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure if we're going to sign 2 midfielders. I think we might potentially sign 1, and it be the kind of number 8 position that we're primarily looking at. And I think that's why the links are so strong with Tielemans, because he's Premier League proven. He knows where the goal is. He's out of contract next summer, and he is a player that we're probably, any team that gets him is going to get him for about 30 to 35 million, whereas he would be worth in excess of 60 million if his contract situation wasn't what it is. Whether or not people think he's worth that, realistically, that's what he would go for. He would go for in excess of 60, 70 million because he's a Premier League player. And if you look at the likes of like Maddison, Declan Rice, etc., not to say, they're the same players, but at the end of the day, Premier League proven player going to another Premier League side, it's big money. The only reason why it's around the 35 million mark that he's going to eventually move for is because of the contract situation. Leicester are pretty much kind of over a barrel with regards having to let him go or lose him on a free. So for me, like Fabian Ruiz, like I said, he is a good player. I like him, technically good, like you say, typical Spanish player. But I think in terms of what we need at Arsenal, he just wouldn't be at the top of my list. I think I would prefer Tielemans or Zinchenko than over Fabian Ruiz. He would feature kind of quite low on the list in terms of players that I would prefer to bring in for that number 8 position. So for me, it's a no. Just because on the basis of what you said is that I prefer, the likes of Tielemans coming into the club over him. But it'll be interesting to see what people think in the chat. I know we've probably got just the one comment, and that's from Ross. Be interesting because I know I spoke to, I think it was Jake actually, if you're still watching, spoke to him on a WhatsApp group, and he was saying that Fabian Ruiz is a player that he highly rates. And it seems to be that way. Like a lot of people seem to kind of highly rate him. And I think all the number 8s that we're being linked with at the moment, I think go straight into our first team. And before people say it, that's nothing, agenda against Xhaka or not rating Xhaka, but I just think in terms of what we're looking for a number 8, I think Fabian Ruiz, Tielemans, or even, Zinchenko, I think they walk into that number 8 position personally.
But I think it's not an agenda against them, but the whole reason we're looking and the whole reason we're being linked, we need an upgrade. We need to upgrade that position. 100%.
100%. We can't rely on, and like I say, it's nothing against him, but we can't rely on like 2 or 3, 30-yard screamers in a season from our number 8 in that position in midfield. I don't know what the Tielemans stats were, but I think was he in double figures this season for goals? I can't really remember. I don't know if you've got it at hand, but yeah, we definitely need a more offensive type player that can offer us more moving forward in the midfield area for that number 8 position. Russ here saying Ruiz, it depends on the price. If we can get him for about 25 million, then we should look into it. And for sure, I think, obviously we all have our favorites with regards to midfielders, but a lot of it, like you said, Russ, depends on the fee. I think if a player is available at a certain price, you kind of can't help, but you can't ignore that. So obviously, I think he will be one player of many midfielders that Arsenal are going to be looking at this summer. And until we actually, pull the trigger on 1 or 2 of them, we're not really going to know who they are. But I think he definitely is a player on a lot of teams' lists in terms of his age, his experience, his quality, and definitely his contract situation at Napoli. There's a lot of players that are going to be in communication with him and his camp about a potential move this summer. So yeah, that's about it.
6 goals, 4 assists this season for Tielemans in the league.
Okay.
Which, don't get me wrong, it's not vastly different from Fabian Ruiz, but again, it goes back to what I said earlier on, the Italian league. Yeah. With the exception of the top sort of 4 or 5 teams, the rest of the league is weak.
And he just slots in, didn't he, Tielemans? You sign him, he just goes into pre-season. and he just slots into the side. There's none of this, will he need a season to transition or settle in or whatever. He just slots in. He's been living in the UK for however long. So it just makes a lot of sense to go for a Tielemans-style player who's, tried and tested, proven in the Premier League, than go for, a player that, could come and flop or could come and do very well. For me, it just makes logical sense to go with the likes of Tielemans or Basuma. Cool. And that pretty much rounds up our 5 players that we've looked at. Obviously, if there are any other questions with regards to transfers, gossips, or anything like that, any questions you want to ask us, any other links that you've seen over the last 7 days that we've not covered in the timeline rumor roundup, or obviously the 5 featured players, do put them in the chat. As you'll see at the banner below, comments, discussion points, anything, drop them in. But before we move on to ridiculous rumor of the week, if you can just bring up that comment, please, Stephen, if you can find it, from Ravi, and we will shortly discuss that while we give people a couple of minutes to think about if there's anything else they want to drop in the chat before we close. I know there's been a lot of comments tonight. Thank you. You did that pretty quick. So yeah, Ravi here is saying, and thank you again for this. And I did say we'd come back to it, and so we don't like to break our promises here at Cannon Chatter. Question: how strong do you think Arsenal's squad will be to cope with Prem and Europa? Stephen, what are we thinking?
I don't know. We had planned to do a show where we were going to go through and sort of do like a squad, not a squad review, but like a squad overhaul, and sort of say, what we thought we needed in terms of positions and players and stuff. And without sort of going into the great detail of what I had come up with, I have my page here that I had done. I'm just going to share a little bit of it. For me, I know people think we had a good season, and this is not me being negative. This is just me thinking that there's still massive improvements needed in that squad. I said it at the start of the season that I felt we bought Europa League players. We bought players that were going to get us into the Europa League and could potentially compete in the Europa League. I don't see a lot of them as Champions League players, and that's my concern. And I know Bobby, obviously, who's part of the channel, said that but they'll grow into Premier League or into Champions League players. I'm not necessarily sure that some of them have the quality to do that. So for me, I mean, looking at sort of our regular starting 11, I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 changes in our regular starting 11 in my new squad for next season. In terms of signings, I had us down for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 9 new signings needed to make the squad an awful lot more competitive. And then obviously including loan players that players out in loan and stuff at the minute. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 players leaving. And that, it's still, for me, there's still a massive overhaul needed in the squad. There's still a lot of players aren't good enough. And they're good enough for mid-table Premier League. And that, again, it's not me being negative, and I know, I know people will give me probably flack for this and say, "Oh, I'm being negative," and I'm not. There are people out there, and I've seen it. You can't say anything in any way critical of the team without being considered a negative or toxic fan or this sort of thing. But I've always said that as long as you can back it up with a reason, why shouldn't you be critical? Yeah, and I know then that there's people out there and they're like, really, really negative. And yeah, I get that, they're being negative for negative sake. I'm not saying this for more views or, for more clicks on the channel or anything. I'm saying this because it's the honest truth. It's what I personally believe. It's my opinion. And my opinion isn't wrong because it's my opinion. Likewise, G, your opinion isn't wrong because it's your opinion. So, I mean, for me, I think we're a long way off competing at the top. A long way off. Whether we can get in enough quality this summer to get us Champions League, I don't know, because you've got to look at it realistically. City and Liverpool, even if they didn't strengthen, are still going to be in the top 2-3 teams. Chelsea are going to strengthen. Now, how much the takeover and stuff will affect them, I don't know. But from all accounts, they're going to be given, Tuchel's going to be given money to strengthen. Them lot down the road, now that Conte's said he's staying, they're going to strengthen. And, okay, players will go there with no real career ambition because they're not going to win anything, but they'll still strengthen. They're still going to be challenging for top 4. Ten Hag's gone in at United, and they're going to strengthen. Again, they finished, 11 points behind us. So, they've got to make up an 11-point gap. It's not unheard of. They will strengthen. They will be a better team. Newcastle are going to throw silly money about, and they're going to strengthen. Leicester are looking at a rebuild. They're going to sell some players. They're going to look at rebuilding. I'm not saying that they're necessarily going to challenge for the top 6, but they're going to be better than they were. So that, all of a sudden there's 8 teams in the mix for 6 spots. So if we don't increase in it, and if we don't improve the quality we have in the squad, and that's what let us down. On our day, we could compete with anybody.
Yeah, our first choice 11,
Yeah, but we had nothing on the bench. There are players we're going to struggle to get rid of. I think I understand the reason. I know you said no agenda against 34. And it's not that I have an agenda against him. I don't rate him. I don't think he's good enough. And I think the young Mexican lad, Flores, his name is, did an interview this week where he said that, for Arteta, it's what happens off the pitch, your behaviour off the pitch, then your effort on the pitch, and then your quality.
Okay.
So actually quality comes, below your effort. And there's one thing I can't fault 34 for, and that's his effort. He may not be good enough, but he does, he puts the effort in. He tries. It's just not good enough. So I think that's why he's still there. And I think, that's why we signed him up for another year, kept him for another year. And I think the intention was probably always to let him go this summer. But we've kind of been shot in the foot because the only team that wanted him was Roma. And they've just gone and signed Matic from United for the exact same position. So all of a sudden we're going to be left with him. And, that hampers our ability to add an extra midfielder. So people talk about, the links are there for Basuma. I can't see us bringing in Basuma if we don't get rid of 34. And where's he going to go? I know they're not directly the same style or the same player, but they're similar, and their squad role would be the same. So I just can't see why we bring Basuma in when we can't get rid of 34. And that's the problem, is that, Edu's not good at getting rid of players. The players we have, top teams don't want them, but we've been paying them so much that they're not prepared to cut their wages to go to lesser teams. So bad management over the years is still costing us, or not bad management, bad decisions by the powers that be in terms of contracts and things like that is still costing us now. We got into this way, what do you call him? Bellerin's wanting us to release him from his contract with a year to go so that he can go and sign for Betis. It's like, No. You want to go to Betis. Betis know how much it costs. It's 10 million or 8 to 10 million. If they can't afford it, you know what, Bellerin? You've got the money. If you're that desperate to go and play for them, you stick the money on the table.
Yeah.
Buy your contract out.
Mm-hmm.
But teams see us now as a joke when it comes to the transfer dealings. We are an absolute joke of a club when it comes to transfers. And that is going to cost us. So how strong we will be next season, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I think the not having Champions League is going to affect us more than we want to believe it will. I think we need minimum 5 players, as you say, probably more, maybe 7. And for me, we needed 6 in the starting 11. Now, again, I know I'm going to be hated for what I'm about to say. One of those we have already signed, which is Matt Turner. And then I think I'd play him ahead of Ramsdale. Haven't watched him. And I know I'll be hated for saying that, but that's again, my opinion. So even at that, you're still talking 5 of your 10 starting 11. I still think need changed. Saliba coming back is one of those. So it's only 4 then transfers for the starting 11. But then you still need massive improvements in squad depth. Your players like Ainsley Maitland-Niles and stuff. I know Keith said about keeping him, but he doesn't. We've talked about this many times in the show. He's a backup right back. He could potentially be a starting right back, but he's not a central midfielder, and he's never going to be a central midfielder at a top 6 club.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
He may be a central midfielder at a lower Premier League team. One of those teams that's going to be battling relegation every season, but he's never going to be a top 6 centre midfield starter. And unless he gets that out of his head, he has to go. So, yeah, it's an interesting summer ahead. Transfer window opens on Friday.
It is.
We need to get business done early.
It is definitely. No, no, definitely it is. Just quickly from me with regards to that, how strong do you think Arsenal's squad will be to cope with Prem and Europa? I think right now, as it stands, I think we'd massively struggle. I think you could see even with predominantly 1 game a week, we pretty much bottled the top 4 race, and I think if you add in the Europa games, if you add in, obviously Carabao, FA Cup, obviously we're going to want to have, more of a serious run in those competitions. I think with this current squad, we're really going to struggle. Obviously, we are going to sign players between now and the end of the window and the start of the season. But as Stephen, pretty much brilliantly summed up, it depends on the quality of signing and it depends on the number of signings. And it also massively depends on the players that we can get rid of or not get rid of. So, it's hard to tell, but what at the end of the bottom line is we need to be a lot stronger and a lot more squad depth between now and the end of the season to cope with the increased games next season. But thank you so much for that one, Ravi. Next up, we've got here Danny Faz saying, who do you think will leave before the end of the window? Well, you know what? I'm not sure on who will leave. I think there are some dead certs, and I'll kind of go to my review that I've got here. For me, I think Leno will leave. That's a dead cert. I think Pepe will leave this window. Laka's already announced he's going to leave. Renarsson, I think, will go. Murray will go. Torreira, Bellerin, Ainsley will go. Guendouzi's already out the door. I think Nelson will go. So in terms of guaranteed players to leave, and without loans, I'm saying Leno, Pepe, Laka, Renarsson, Murray, Torreira, Bellerin, Ainsley, Guendouzi, and Nelson. So I think that I see 10 players out the door this summer. Anything your end for that one, Stephen?
No, I mean, obviously the list, it's very similar.
Yeah.
I had on my list in terms of players that needed to go, I had like Savetti and Kedia, who it looks like It's not been officially announced, but it looks like he's staying.
Yeah, I had Elneny as well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Elneny was on my list of players that should be going. Cedric, Holding.
Yeah.
And then everybody else that you've mentioned.
Yeah. I think for me, obviously there are players that in an ideal world I'd like to leave. In an ideal world. But in terms of players that I think will definitely leave the summer, I think it will be those 10. I can't see those 10 having a future at Arsenal. Whereas players like Holding, for example, yes, I would long term like them to be replaced, but I just can't see that happening this summer in terms of what we're going to be doing as a squad rebuild. I just think there are bigger issues. I think down the line that probably will happen, but in terms of leaving this window, to answer your question, it's those 10. And I'll read them out again. That's Leno, Pepe, Laka, Renarsson, Mari, Torreira, Bellerin, Ainsley, Guendouzi, and Nelson.
I think 34 will go if we get an offer for him.
Okay.
If we can find a buyer, I think he'll go, because I don't think he's going to want to sit on the bench at this stage of his career.
Yeah, and by all accounts, he's going to sit on the bench for quite a bit next season, particularly if we sign, nobody, for all the love that Jacques has been shown this season, and to be fair, he has been, consistent better than he has been in previous seasons. At the same time, people need to be under no illusion that we signed Tielemans, he's starting. It is what it is. So that needs to be kind of thought about. We've got another comment here. It needs to be as strong as possible if we want to get back into the Champions League, either via the league or the Europa. 100%. It needs to be a strong window. If we can sign a couple of more physical types of players who won't be bossed about, then we will have a great chance. Also, would you play Saliba, White, and Gabriel in a back three this season? Personally, no. I think we'll stick to the back four. I think if it requires it in a game match scenario, I think then it's something Arteta will have at his disposal. For example, we're in a tight game, we lose a man, we lose a man to a red card or something like that. We might go to a back five, or if we want to play away from home, like against City or something, it might be something that he experiments with or that he does. But I think predominantly this season, we're going to be playing with a back four. Whether he'll be in the starting lineup, I don't think he personally will be. I know, other people disagree and think he will start in front of Ben White, but I guess time will tell. Luca AFC saying, big up yourself. Thank you for tuning in. Do you have an Instagram? Yes, we do. Cannon Chatter official Instagram is, we do have a page. We do
Cannon_chatter.
Yeah, Cannon_chatter. We do post our content on there, particularly when we advertise our shows and snippets from our live shows. So yeah, we do have Instagram. Head over there and follow us, and we'll follow you right back. Rudy Sakar saying, did Stephen just say that Matt Turner should be playing ahead of Ramsdale, or am I hearing things late at night? Stephen did say that. He did say that.
Can I clear this up? I want to clear this up about Ramsdale, because I don't want to keep coming back to it. But right, I like Ramsdale.
Yeah,
he is a reasonably good keeper. I didn't want Ramsdale last summer. I was skeptical of it. I thought we were paying an awful lot of money for him. He has proved me wrong. He has had some fantastic moments on the pitch. His distribution is far better than Leno with his feet. And that was always the problem. But I also said Martinez was better with his distribution with his feet than Leno. Genuinely, hand on heart, I think Leno is a better shot stopper than Ramsdale. And I think the biggest reason Arsenal fans love Ramsdale is because of the shithousery. And that, for want of a better phrase, if he wasn't a character to the extent that he is, would Arsenal fans rate him as highly? Would Arsenal fans think he's such a good keeper? Probably not. And that's the honest truth. I think at times he has been very weak at times, very vulnerable and very naive in some of the stuff he's done. We're still conceding a lot of goals. And he has been at fault. Let's not pretend he hasn't. He has been at fault for quite a few goals. I'm not saying them all, and I'm not trying to put that down to him at all, but he has been at fault, and there are times where he has conceded goals that he should have saved.
Yeah, there have been moments.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I don't think he has the consistency. And as I say, I think the big thing is he is such a character that we as fans love him because he has that about him and the way he conducts himself. But I don't think he's necessarily as good a keeper as we believe he is.
I think, like, from my perspective, I definitely feel as though the character side of things, and there was a particular point in the season where he was playing just phenomenally well. And I think those two combined, I think I agree that, as Arsenal fans, we probably do, to a certain extent, overrate him. Just because one, what he's brought, in terms of on the pitch, but also what he's brought with the kind of connection with the fans. But I think his performances, and I think there was a particular point in the season where he was playing phenomenally well. He was the reason why we were winning games. So for me, I have to disagree with the fact that Turner plays over him. Me personally, I think he's Arsenal's number one. I can't see any risk of Turner coming into the side and starting as Arsenal's number one. Now, I haven't seen much of Turner. I've seen a little bit, but I think number one position at Arsenal is Ramsdale's to lose. There's no reason to suggest Turner won't come in, do very well, and compete for that spot, and even get the number one spot. So I'm not writing Turner off at all. But I just think based on this season, on his performances across the whole season, I think that spot's his to lose. And I think Turner will come in, and he looks a good goalkeeper, and he will add competition for that spot. But yeah, I think it's Ramsdale to lose, and it will be on Turner when he gets his opportunity to take it, grasp it with both hands, and actually, make the decision more difficult for Arteta. But that's just my perspective on it in terms of the goalkeeping situation.
Ramsdale wasn't brought in to be number one straight away, though.
I know he wasn't, but he took his chance.
So it's the exact same situation as what
it is. It is.
I agree with you. I don't think we'll start next season with Turner in goal.
No.
I'm not saying we will. I'm just saying that that's what I would do. But I don't think we will. I think Ramsdale will start. But, we never thought Ramsdale was going to start.
In a million years.
It was kind of Ramsdale was being brought in as his understudy, and Leno would probably stay another season or two, and then Ramsdale would probably come into the team. But he got his chance after 3 games. After Leno conceded 9 goals, and again, I think you could argue it was slightly harsh on Leno because I don't think a lot of that was his fault.
No, it wasn't.
But Ramsdale came in and he took his opportunity. And this is what I go back to when I said earlier on that, Arteta has proved that when players come in and they take their opportunity, he will leave them in the team.
Yeah, he will.
And Ramsdale got that opportunity and he built that connection. Do you know what the thing is with Ramsdale, right? He's clever. He is very clever because what did he do? He built that connection with the fans that Leno didn't have. Fans liked Leno. And a lot of fans rated him as a goalkeeper. Yes, he had issues and he wasn't great with his distribution, but he never had that connection with the fans that Ramsdale did. And Ramsdale, was very clever in what he did. Yeah. He's made himself an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, because it's an emotional sport, isn't it?
He was never an Arsenal fan before he signed for Arsenal. But he's an Arsenal fan now, and he's very much made a point of doing that. But he's very good at making that connection with his fans. Like, he goes back to all his old clubs and watches their games and stuff when he's not playing, because he keeps that connection with the fans.
Yeah, no, it's true,
and it's a very clever move.
No, definitely. And we've got here Daddy Faz. I need to see more of Turner before I can give you an honest answer to being ahead of Ramsdale. Lee saying, yes, Riddy. Stephen said that, and that's cool because that's his opinion. Riddy Sakar saying, yeah, Lee, that's cool. Riddy also saying, Ramsdale did become a bit sloppy in the last 2 months of the season, but he'll still remain number one for me. And yeah, I have to agree with that. As amazing as he was, the fall off at the end of the season, I could see it. And I could see it in a lot of the players, to be honest. But I could definitely see it in Ramsdale, because even some of the things like his distribution that we were all massively praising him for fell off in some really big games as well, where, you know, his distribution just wasn't on point. That building from the back just wasn't there. That comfortability on the ball that we saw earlier in the season wasn't there. So I definitely take that all into account. But for me, and really, like I say, for me, he starts as number one. It's his to lose, but there is no guarantee that he's going to have that number one spot, because, as Stephen said, you know, you impress Arteta, you get your chance. If you take your chance, you're in the team.
There was a few games towards the back end of the season where I actually thought he's in danger of getting dropped.
Yeah,
I know may get back in.
The fall off was big.
Yeah, and I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say that he is responsible for, you know, not getting the Champions League.
Yeah,
he's not. You know, it's a collective thing.
Yeah,
you know, there was a lot of players, you know, have to hold their hands up and say that they weren't good enough at times.
Spurs game, crap. Newcastle game, crap.
Yeah, but there was games where, you know, you could argue if he had potentially been better, we might have got better results in those games. But again, I want to make it clear, I'm not blaming him in any way. You know, I'm not saying that he's responsible for us not getting top four. He's not. It was a collective thing, you know, as a whole over the season.
Yeah.
But there were times in those last couple of months, as you know, as you rightly say, we dropped off so much that I thought Leno maybe should be getting back in here.
Yeah, definitely. Luca FC said hi Luca. Happy to join us again. Now here saying, big up guys, big up yourself. Thank you for tuning in. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up the show. But we do have our last thing that we're going to come on. We've been on the air for 2 hours. So thank you so much to everybody who is still with us. It's amazing, you know, in terms of your support. But last section of the show is Ridiculous Rumour of the Week. And I hand over to my co-host and brother from another mother, Stephen. Talk to us. What is the ridiculous rumor of the week?
So, ridiculous rumor of the week. This is not it's not designed to be a massive talking point at the end of the show. It's just purely a bit of a laugh. A rumor that one of us have seen. Last week it was Dominic Calvert-Lewin, the Newcastle, for 85 million because Everton valued him at that, because he was second in line to Harry Kane in the England team. This week, the most ridiculous rumour that I have seen is, we all know that Sadio Mane is wanting to leave Liverpool, and, you know, for all intents and purposes, he's going to Bayern Munich, to potentially replace Gnabry. So, Champions League winner, Premier League winner, now FA Cup winner, Carabao Cup winner this season. And somebody somewhere thought, yeah, he wants to go to Arsenal. So, ridiculous rumour of the week, Sadio Mane to Arsenal. Never going to happen. Never going to happen.
When you said that to me, you know what the thing is? I actually saw it. Because you sent it to me earlier, and I knew what you was talking about. You put Mane to Arsenal, and I went, ridiculous rumor of the week, right? And he was like, yep. And I said, you know what? I actually saw it, but it was so ridiculous when I read it. I didn't get excited. I didn't think, oh, let me read into this. I literally laughed and just kept scrolling. Like, literally, that was my reaction. Because I just thought, this person cannot be serious. Like, you know what I mean? It's Sadio Mane. He's leaving Liverpool, like, and this is no disrespect to our club, the club we love and support, but it's just not going to happen. You know, it's just not. We're not going to get one of the best players to play for one of the two top teams in the Premier League to sign for Arsenal at this stage of our project and our process. So yeah, that for me is ridiculous rumor of the week for Stephen. If you've heard any other ones, please put them in the chat, because I'd be interested to hear them. I don't know what would top that, but yeah, if you've got any, please do let us know. You got Daddy Faz here with the laughing emojis. 85 million. What are they smoking in Newcastle, or what, or whoever's actually made up the rumor? Mane with laughing faces. Yeah, it literally just blew me away, that Mane to Arsenal rumor. And Gnabry to Arsenal is also the same, never going to happen, according to Rudy Sakar. And Daddy Faz here saying, we would have more chance getting Henry or Wright out of retirement than getting Mane. It's true. It is that ridiculous. But yeah, that pretty much kind of wraps up the show. If there's anything that you want to pop in the comments or anything like that, please do right now. Yeah, it's been a blast, man. Episode 2. We'll be back next week for episode 3. I'm not really sure what day. I think it might be a Wednesday moving forward, just because it kind of fits into my schedule a little bit better. But whatever day it will definitely be Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of next week. And obviously, we'll put out our tweets, Instagram, Facebook, etc. Keep you posted for our kind of 9:30 slot next week. Other than that, I'm not too sure about shows, but like I said, moving into obviously the window opens on Friday, so that's going to be exciting. Hopefully, we'll have an announcement all ready to go on Friday morning. Not getting too excited though. But yeah, so we do have obviously the Rumour Mill episode 3 next week, likely to be Wednesday, but any day between Monday and Wednesday. But yeah, we'll just stay tuned on our socials and stuff, and we'll keep you posted. Any last words, Stephen?
Yeah, just in terms of shows, I know there's still another couple of England games. I'm not sure if Lee will be back to do any more of the sort of chat alongs for those. But there is plenty of content coming up over the next few weeks. Lottie sent me through the schedule in terms of the women's shows for the women's Euros. So loads of stuff coming up on that. Keep tuned. The only other thing is, do you know what? We say this, we said it all last summer, and we said it last week, and I have to say it again, and I'm going to say it every week. The Rumour Mill is about rumours that we see.
Yeah. 100%.
We're not sitting here taking every single one of these rumours seriously. We don't necessarily think that, you know, Arsenal are going to sign all these players. They're just things that we see. They're talking points, and we enjoy talking about it. We enjoy the drama of it. It's a bit of fun. Just a sort of a very quick thing. I've seen a massive amount of Arsenal fans for some reason, or WWE fans and wrestling fans.
Yeah, American football, golf, all sorts, mate. Love Island.
I used to be I used to be a wrestling fan, right?
Yeah.
But I'll tell you how I used to watch wrestling. I'd watch the story parts and I'd fast forward through the wrestling because I didn't really want to see two grown men covered in baby oil rubbing about in a ring. But I loved the drama of the stories. That was the fun part. And the Rumour Mill is kind of like that. I love the drama and that side of it. So we don't take it too seriously. Don't come on thinking that we believe every single one of these rumours. It's just a bit of fun.
Yeah, 100%, man. It keeps us busy, man. Do you know what I mean? While there's no games, there's nothing much going on. It gives us a reason to put content together. Like I say, you know, I understand it's frustrating at times. Lots of rumours, lots of speculation, no signings as yet. But look, Gooners, man, the window opens on Friday. Let's be patient. Let's hope that Arteta, Edu, and Co have got everything in hand and they'll sign the players that we need. But yeah, as Stephen says, you know, it gives us a reason to jump onto a stream and interact with you guys and just kind of summarize everything that, you know, we see on the timeline every single day. Like so many faces in the chat. We see you active on Twitter. You're retweeting the same things. You're commenting on the same things we're commenting on. So it just gives us a reason once a week while there's no games to just come on here, interact with you guys, you know, create some content for you that we can hopefully, you know, make the summer go a bit quicker until more football's on the telly. But yeah, I enjoy it. Steven enjoys it. And I hope you guys enjoy it too. And that's it, really. Nothing else from me. But yeah. We're back next Wednesday, I believe, for Rumour Mill episode 3. And yeah, that's about it. Any last words from you, Stephen? Good night.
No, I'm good. Just have a good week, everybody. Stay safe and keep us updated with anything we may have missed.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? No, that's a very good point. And also, if there's a particular player, I'll say this last thing. If there's a particular player that you want that you see us being linked with between now and next week's show, and you think, you know, that's a player that you'd like to hear more about or a player you'd like to feature on the show, or if there is also any of you that would like to appear on the show between now and obviously when the window closes, because we're going to be doing these weekly, please just DM, you know, Callan Chatter, SB Chats, myself, G Talks, Arsenal on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, however you want to contact us. If you've got our number, just pop us on WhatsApp. and we'll get that sorted between now, because there's going to be more than enough available opportunities to get, guests and stuff on the show. But yeah, other than that, thank you for tuning in. Your support is massively appreciated, as always. But until next time, keep chatting.